Today it's a new episode of the AgFlick podcast, and I have an amazing guest here, Jasper, and I have you're Dutch,
yes,
and your family name. For me it's really hard at the moment. I'm still working on it, so
please don't try.
I'm not gonna try it right now, but let's give it a try a year from now maybe. So in a few keywords that will define you. Skydiving instructor, you're almost crossing your 900 jumps out of airplanes. Some people are crazy, but yeah, we take that. You a trained software engineer. You've been software engineer your whole life in a way, and you now working as a CTO, almost CTO as a service in a way. You found companies, so you're a founder. That's one more thing, and you like flying drones.
Yes.
With JavaScript.
Yes.
What a weird idea.
Yes. Indeed.
And one thing that when I was doing my research is I saw this recommendation you got on LinkedIn that blew my mind. It's someone working for Pancake Adventure saying, "Dear reader, let me tell you something about Jasper," which is really great. It's like, which might be useful to know before hiring as your housemate. Okay, probably he said, yeah, you will be great, you will do great, but it's not sure that you will be at the right place. So for anyone reading, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna hire him already. But then keep going, saying, Jasper is not only a good technician, he's also a good manager, which means he's strict, but of course with a sunny side that is passion and clear. And then he continues saying he's a great teacher as well, and in times of need, he can translate. That is the part that is really amazing. Saying he can translate computer language to Dutch or any language you choose, which is really amazing. And then he closes saying, "Jasper is an enthusiastic worker and a good teacher." That is very nice.
That's the best review you can hope for, right?
Yeah, indeed. That is. I mean, I'm reading it again a second time. I'm like, wow, that's.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. He's really nice.
So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for having us at your place, yes, which is even more amazing there. So let's talk about you, your trajectory. Who is Jasper?
Who is Jasper?
In a few words.
In a few words.
Yeah.
I think I'm just a very enthusiastic engineer. Like in my heart, I am really an engineer. I love anything that I just love building stuff.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I just like make a plan, or I just really like figuring out new stuff and then starting using that knowledge just to build stuff. I think that's pretty common for any engineer, but it's very relevant for me. Yeah.
What is your process to acquire new knowledge as you grew? Because you actually study computer science.
Yes.
So you get the fundamentals right, and then from there.
Yeah, in all honesty, I'm not so sure about the whole that part of the education.
Okay.
Like, it was fine, but and I think you will always underestimate how much it taught you. But it also, a lot of times I was like, am I ever going to use this? I feel that especially a software engineer, you really have to learn in the field. So I'm
building stuff and
yeah. Especially like if you see a lot of big companies, they kind of really have this process of interviewing based on your computer science background.
Yeah.
And then the things you have to prepare for these kind of interviews really gives me a feeling like, is this really relevant? This is like 1% of the thing you need to know as a software engineer, like these very theoretical things. And 99% is just very practical knowledge.
I feel like this is a new way of thinking, like companies, founders, HR manager, you have companies like Google saying we don't really care about those 4 years computer science or even a degree to get you in the field. But I think it's pretty new. It's a new wave because you were a founder. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. At what moment that switch happened for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, the very practical thing that I know about this situation is that I did the computer science education, and I'm not so sure how much it helped me or how much practical knowledge you gain from that. And I do indeed, I see more and more companies realizing the same thing. But it also means that these companies, they kind of have to let go of a certain certainty. They used to have the certainty that if you have a computer science background, it will give you at least a certain amount of kind of knowledge or experience that you need for the job. Yep. And if you let go of this piece of certainty, then it's going to make it a little bit more difficult, because this parameter is no longer telling you whether someone is going to be successful at their job or not. Okay. So that this is also, I think, a reason why bigger companies have a bit, like it took some time for them to realize this.
Did you have to hire at some point someone who didn't have that computer science background, and how was the experience there?
In all honesty, I never look at that.
Okay.
Like I never, when I judge someone's background, I hardly go back further than their working experience. The working experience is very relevant, and that's the thing that we want to focus on. I don't even remember, like, from most of my hires, I wouldn't even be able to tell you whether they had a computer science background or not.
Okay, interesting. I'm curious because you've been in that field for many years. What are the tools? How did you manage to stay up to date with technologies? How it was evolving? What was the main trick for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's also a difficult one. I think that first part is enthusiasm, or just interest. That if you are interested in a field, then naturally, like when I'm sitting on the couch and I just have some free time, and then you can do a lot of stuff, and I would be very happy in just browsing some tech blogs or just reading up. So if that doesn't seem like a burden or something that you have to do, but that you actually like to do, like even when you're in bed, maybe just try and read another blog, which might be interesting. Then this is already a very natural way of learning. So it doesn't even feel like you're learning. It doesn't feel like you're staying up to date. You're actually staying up to date. But on the other side, I also see that things are changing so quickly that I think when I hire someone, I also try to look for people who are able to kind of cope with that much change. And you don't necessarily have to know everything. You just, because things are happening so fast and changing so fast, I think that a very successful engineer is not the one who knows everything that is changing and knows all the latest thing, but is more able to kind of deal with that fact. And then, like, I am perfectly fine with an engineer using very old technology, but that he mastered very much. Like, maybe it's not the latest and greatest, but he's just very good at his job or at that technology or that language. Then I'm perfectly fine with that. So I think it's also part of people being able to work with this much of change and kind of keep afloat.
This actually is gonna make me skip a few questions that I had, and then go to one of the one question that is really I mean, in the industry today, we have this challenge when people are like, oh, there is this thing new, and I want to give it a try on my project, although the product you need to deliver doesn't need that new thing. But then people end up still going for that new-ish thing. So you, as a founder, and you've been CTOs, you led teams. At what moment? What is your point of view on, like, let's deliver the product versus let's use that shiny thing, although it's not required? Because one who's gonna make the software engineers happy, and the other one will make the product or project management or CTO or CEO of a company happy, because you're delivering a product and not really the underlying technology you use there. What is the trade-off? How do you deal with that?
So this is a very difficult topic, in a sense that this is a trade-off, which is it's also it's quite hard to know which is best. I think that if you really see it from a business perspective, just purely from a product perspective, then of course you never use the new shiny thing. Yeah. Unless it's already proven all over the place, and then like at the end of the day, like after a lot of other companies tried it out and they published about it, they wrote blogs, then finally you say, okay, now I feel it's mature enough, and then we will use it. This is kind of the conservative and probably like from a business perspective, the most sensible thing to do. What I did realize throughout the years is that sometimes it kind of the hiring, so the recruitment, from the recruitment perspective, and from an engineering happiness perspective, you should sometimes do the new shiny stuff, because first of all, you want to hire people, and people are very they kind of, when they look for a new job, one of the first things they're looking for is if they have the cool new stack that they really want to work with. Because at the end of the day, that's what they have to do day in, day out, is work with this stack. So from a recruitment perspective, it's quite important. Then you can maybe have this old technology which works really well, but then maybe people don't want to work for you, which is a very important thing nowadays because of the market. And on the other hand, people that are already working for you, you want them to be happy. In my experience, if an engineer is happy, then they will work 3 times as hard, 4 times as hard, and it's probably not only for engineers, this fact. They will work so much harder and they will be so much happier. So from this perspective, yes, you can be very conservative, but if your engineers aren't very happy, then...
But then you also have the point of view of a PO or a product manager saying, hey, we have an amazing product. Yeah, sure. The technology behind that is not the latest, the shiniest, but it's bringing revenue. It gives us enough money to invest into whatever that's going to use the latest thing. Mm-hmm. I know a famous company, I'm not going to give names, but I know a famous company in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, probably one of the biggest company in this country, that use jQuery, I think version 1 point something.
I know which company you're talking about.
Exactly. we know exactly. And they're fine. Their product is doing really well. Yeah. And that give them enough runway to build other stuff next to it. But I try to see like the perspective also on the PO part.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think when these kind of questions arise, because they arise a lot of times, because it's a very difficult question, I think at these places, at this table, it's very hard to kind of give this very distinct kind of, yes, it should be like 60% this decision or based on this fact and 40%. So that will never happen. I think best at this point is to kind of identify which factors you should take into consideration, and at that point in any business you should just be able to identify
case by case.
Yes, of course it's a very case by case, but I do think that of course the conservative view of just only use something as when it's completely proven is very obvious, but I do think from the other perspective of why it's warranted to use the shiny thing is recruitment and engineering or engineer happiness.
Okay, so let's go back to you finishing your computer science studies and then moving toward, you start working at a lawyer firm.
That was kind of my student job. So just kind of doing IT there. Okay.
And then what the transition from there to being a founder? Yeah. What was that? What was the thing you saw and you were like, I'm going to solve that problem?
So I actually started the company when I was still a student. Okay. I didn't finish the computer science degree yet. It actually took quite some effort when I already had the company, which was becoming very successful. So it took a lot of time. It took quite some energy and dedication to actually finish my studies. But the reason that I started is that I started with 2 friends, where we already did kind of what we already did. Like it was more of a production company we were already producing a lot of movies and this kind of.
Okay.
So we just wanted to get paid. That was
Nice.
maybe the reason for starting the company, is that we were already doing the same stuff. We just wanted an excuse to kind of at least get a little bit of money out of it.
Yeah.
This was kind of and it was also more of a lot of people talking about starting companies, and we didn't want to be those kind of people who only talked about it.
Yeah.
We wanted to show some action. And this was the whole motivation. We never had an idea of it becoming as big as it did, or as running it, that the company was going to run as long as it did. That was never the intention. It was just kind of, let's just do this and see whatever happens. And then kind of the big turning point was the first time that we got a big client.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think our like, we still felt it was kind of a game. And then at some point I think it was a assignment of 10,000 euros.
Okay.
That was a
Crazy
crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
Yes. So
we're talking 2005.
Yeah. So that was. So we started in 2005.
Okay.
I don't know. It was, I think at the end of that year that we kind of got this assignment, and that was the first time that we. Like, that really felt like, now we're really a business.
We're in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But that was a huge amount of money. By now, I know for production, like this is not even a very big budget. But back then, when you were just three kind of kids messing around, then this is a huge budget. So that was kind of the point that we realized, like, okay, this is becoming something big.
Okay. And then, what was the role? Which role were you playing?
So I was always, so we started as kind of a production company, where I already was the technical guy.
Yeah.
And because we were doing a lot of marketing, advertising, we started to realize that development could be really part of that proposition. Okay. So more and more companies realized that not did they need only some movies or some graphic design, but they could use an app also. Or they could use in the beginning, Facebook apps were really big. So that's kind of what we started doing development in-house.
Were you part of the Facebook app wave?
Yes.
Because that was pretty big.
Yes. Yeah. At a certain point, people thought that's going to be the future of the internet, almost like Facebook apps. Yeah. I mean, I think they still exist, but the focus is, I think, moved on a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of the thing that we used as a stepping stone of getting into the game. So we started producing Facebook apps, and then we started producing bigger apps and more kind of standalone apps, like mobile apps, platforms, and so that grew out to become pretty big within the company.
It's still the company is still running because you're not part of the company.
It's running in a different form.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I got out, like actually 2 of the 3 partners got out.
Yeah.
It wasn't even my idea. I can take all the credits, but I was really one of my partners said, I think it's time to move on, and I was still really happy at the company, but I also felt like this was an opportunity to kind of use that moment of chaos, of the stuff was going to change, and then I thought maybe this is a good time for me to also do something new after 10 years. Like 10 years is a lot, so yeah. That's
a lot of time is spent. So as a founder, you had a CTO role there.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna list a few things there, and you tell me which one you enjoyed doing.
Okay.
Recruiting.
It's a necessary evil.
Okay. Coaching, mentoring engineers.
Yeah, that's fun and cool. Yeah. Helping people grow is really cool.
Okay. Define their career path, obviously. So when you mentioned that, so that is part of it.
Yeah, I think that's part of the previous point. Yes.
Okay. How about the team structure? How many people did you have in your engineering team, and what was the?
So our own company was about 12 people at a certain point, so it wasn't that big. And then later, also fulfilling the role of CTO for other companies was also kind of around those team sizes. Like I always feel that when you have like around 12, 13, 14 people, that's still kind of considered one team. Mm-hmm. And that if you become bigger than that, then you start thinking about, okay, so maybe these should be 2 teams, but then you have the coordination between the teams, so the ball game really changes after that number.
Nice. Okay. How do you work even with a small team of 12, like a group of 12, which is still human being that needs to be managed. How do you maintain the vision of the company at that moment as it grew?
Yeah, I think that means what I really think helps is just revisiting that a lot. So a lot of times we would have the system of doing every quarter, like every 3 months, you would get, we would just kind of sit down and reflect on the past quarter and look forward.
Okay.
And we would actually actively, together with everyone within the company, really revisit the whole motivation, our goals, our trajectory.
Nice.
So just really revisiting that and also accepting that it could change.
Indeed.
But really getting the buy-in again from everybody every 3 months. That really works.
Coding versus managing.
I think like the goal of any good manager / leader should be to kind of phase himself out. So I think
that's a hard one.
It is very hard. I think that's at the end of the day, that's the goal. And I would figure that if you're at the beginning of the path, like you will have no time to code, because you're coaching, you're helping, you're structuring, you're fixing problems. And then the goal should be is that more and more you are less needed. And then basically, if you have time left on your schedule, then yes, of course, I would love to code.
And that time you don't really have it at some point when you have.
Yeah, so I think it's also a sign whether you're doing a good job or you're neglecting people. That's the other option. But hopefully, if you have the opportunity of really committing to the code base, then that's actually a good sign.
Okay. So then you transition from there. You exit from that company, and then you move into more like consultancy, and that a term that I saw while doing my researches was CTO as a service in a way.
Yeah. Yes.
So how has been that journey so far?
It's been a really good journey, because there's a lot of companies who there's an explosion of development companies, right? There's a lot of people because there's also a lot to do. But I think there's also a lack of people with a lot of experience who can really kind of help all these engineers who are really enthusiastic and really want to start running really fast. If everybody just starts running, it's going to, nice. Everybody's going to run a different direction. And I don't think there are a lot of, there's just a lack of people with some experience to kind of help people run the same direction.
So do you act often as technical co-founder for other people, or you join mostly
so until now I've never, a co-founder basically means that you have shares in the company. Indeed. So until now I've never taken those opportunities, just for personal reasons. Like I had a company for 10 years, and then for a few years you're like, okay, I don't no shares for now. Right now I want to do some work and just get paid for it.
Just a quick anecdote there. When I was doing my researches, I found a picture of you, like you were this young. I don't know, no gray hair, and then 10 years, 15 years later, you're like, okay, I've been running a company. And
yes, it takes sure. I think it's like the famous Obama shots, right? When he starts, and at the end, there are some gray hairs which were added to my head.
Any regrets there, like running?
No regrets. It would always be nice if you had this plan for the rest of your life, and I've just really learned that I don't have a plan. And if you don't really have a plan, it's quite hard to have regrets. In that sense, I'm quite opportunistic. I will admit to that if some nice opportunity arises, and maybe it's a different direction, then I will always take that into serious consideration.
Okay.
So that in that sense, you would have regrets if either you took a really bad decision or you had this goal set before you a long time ago and you didn't reach that goal. I don't really have a plan, so that couldn't happen. And I don't feel I made very, very big mistakes or bad decisions in where I wanted to go. Because until now, almost everything I did, I really liked. So
nice. That is a good way of seeing things. So, what is the best experience you had while running the company, like customer-facing experience during that period, and then after? What is the best experience? Which one would you pick from that period? Like, oh, I enjoyed that project to that level, and then there is another project after you exit.
Yeah, I think my literally, like, if I would go back to running my own company, the best experience is when we really made a step up. And like anyone with a company, I think a lot of people will recognize the game that you're playing is that you're at a certain level. Like you can also always kind of consider I'm at this level, you know, I'm competing with these kind of parties. This is the kind of jobs I do. And then you really want to go to the next level. Yep. But companies will only hire companies which already have experience at that level. So you have this catch-22 because you're not getting the experience, but they require that experience to, you know, get the experience, which is it's a very difficult step. So I really remember the moments that I really felt like, because that's somehow you just have to bluff your way up to the next level. Indeed. And those were kind of the really determining moments in those 10 years when I really felt like, now we're making the next step. The thing I just talked about, the first 10,000 euros assignment, that was really a step up. Because the company could easily have said, you never did one of these big assignments, we're not going to give it to you. But somehow we convinced them to give it to us. And then at that point, if you do that successfully, then the next company will say, oh yeah, you have experience in that area. Here's the assignment.
It's the same catch-22 for when you're looking for a job. It's like, we need that many years of experience, but give me that entry point. Like, but I'm going to have to fake it.
So you will probably really remember the first time that you get the job, that you really feel that you made the step up. So that's kind of, those were really the most determining, and you know, that's just, it's
about the moment.
Indeed. That you really feel that you step up. And I think that after I got out of the company, I think that the things that I enjoyed most is that you come into a company with a pretty big promise, because they're struggling. There's a reason that they ask you to come in, and you make a lot of promises in a certain way, or at least you tell them like, I think it could be this way. And then the best moment is that, and this takes a while, maybe like even a year later, suddenly you and the company start realizing we're getting there. Like we're getting to that point that we thought or that we discussed when you got in. And those were really like the best moments when you really feel like, because it always takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of energy, and it's never a smooth ride. But at a certain point when you really like, you wake up one day and you feel like, we're really getting there. We're getting more lean. We're getting more reactive. We're getting more professional. Everything is starting to roll. Those are kind of the best moments.
What are the good qualities for the quality needed to be a good CTO? If you were to put them in 3 words, I know it's difficult, but
I think a good CTO, it's not going to be 3 words. But is going to be a person who really works for his team and doesn't feel that the team is working for him. The best CTOs I've worked for or worked with are people that think that way, who are really feeling like you are the most, like my team, you are the guys really doing the work, and I'm just here to enable you guys. And I'm just here to take away any
like a leader in the way. If you like, you're there to help, get out of the way. But I like that.
Yeah, so that's like the most inspiring leaders I've met and I've worked with were really people who kind of played that game.
Nice. And anyone out there that you would recommend, like, okay, that person I work with, and that was a blast. I loved it.
So I think like, kind of before I started fulfilling my own CTO roles, I worked with an amazing guy called Alwik Tichelaar. Look him up on LinkedIn. He's a very humble guy. You will not at first think like, he's the great leader who's going to lead this company into the next phase. But I think he really showed me the thing I just talked or told you told you about.
Okay.
He really showed me the humbleness and really kind of being in service of the team. And when he left, I even told him, at a certain point, I felt like you weren't even there, and he thought that was the biggest compliment, because that meant he fulfilled his job.
Yeah, indeed.
That he really got the team together, that everybody was operating properly, like everybody was working together properly, and
tell him if he receive an email from me, he should answer, because I need to talk to him.
Yes,
in a way.
yes.
So here's the thing. One of the things I'm going to do with this podcast is that chain of recommendation. Like, you recommended someone, and you're like, that person inspired me in a way or another, and I'm gonna try to get that person and sit with him and understand what inspiring about those people. But I have a little tweak there.
Yeah.
Would you be able to host podcast session with that person in front of you?
That I would interview him.
Yeah.
I would love the opportunity. I'm not sure if I would be any good at it.
Okay.
That's going to be interesting.
It's all about, you learn and then you to get the job done. But I'm putting it there. If the opportunity was on the table, would you?
I would absolutely take it.
Okay.
I would love to help out.
Okay. You all witnessed that, right? Okay. Great. So we're going to wrap that up quickly. Do you have any in the coming months, because you've been giving talks here and there, you just came back from Washington to give a talk, and we had that amazing demo with the drone. What's next for you in terms of giving talks, sharing your knowledge, educating other people? What are the
so right now I have a few talks lined up, some in Amsterdam, some outside the country. So of course traveling is also a pretty nice perk. I was never in Washington before, so I was really happy with the invitation. And then of course you can take some time in for yourself to explore the city.
Can you just mention the name of the conference you went?
That was Nation.js, Frontrunners.
Yeah,
it was an amazing conference.
Okay.
I really enjoyed my time there.
Nice.
I hope that all the other conferences that I'm going to are as nice as this one. So for now, preparing a talk takes a lot of time. It really, I think it should, because a well-prepared talk is just it's the most respectful.
Nice.
Respectful thing to do for the audience is to really prepare it and really, make sure it hits the spot. But it takes a lot of time. So that also means that as soon as you kind of finished it or you have it prepared, then it's nice to also do it at different places. And also, there's the people at one conference are not the same people as at the other conference.
That's true.
So
That's true.
They will hopefully be also be interested. So I think it's actually a good thing to do the same talk at different places. But at a certain point, you're going to look forward to the next project. And right now I'm already thinking about Amazon. They have this car. They just, I think it's called the Deep Racer.
Deep Racer.
Which you can do. You can kind of do machine learning in a remote control car and make it drive around by itself.
Okay.
So kind of what all the driverless cars companies are doing, but then on a very small scale.
Okay.
So that's something that I'm looking. I'm maybe that's going to be my next talk. How to get those things to drive around your house autonomously.
Nice.
That would be really cool.
Okay. So we have it. We have most of the question wrapped up, but
sure.
I have one last question. Any advice to the younger Jasper?
Yes. The younger me. Do I have any advice? So I think that right now I have a little bit of healthier work-life balance than I used to have. I put in a lot of long hours, which I'm not sure is the worst thing, but also sitting a lot behind the computer, it kind of hurt my back a bit. So I think take care of yourself physically.
Yep.
Right now I'm doing a lot more sports and just taking care of eating healthy, living healthy.
Yep.
And that really helps. I think it would be better I started a little bit earlier with that.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit less gray hairs on my head, but that would be definitely just take care of yourself. That,
Okay, and you still spend a lot of time coding.
Yes,
that's something that we saw.
Absolutely.
Doing JavaScript, all stack,
Yes.
every single level with TypeScript, obviously. That
Yes,
I
absolutely.
read, and is there any specific reason why you're using
JavaScript?
mostly JavaScript? Yeah,
It's the biggest reason is probably recruitment.
Okay.
So when I work at companies, or work for companies, then recruitment is, as we talked about before, is one of the most difficult topics,
Yep.
just because of the market.
Yep.
And then if you can hire full stack JavaScript developers, then you are set for the front and the back end. So it's from a recruitment perspective, it makes sense. But also engineers, in my experience, they really like the fact that they can be full stack by learning one language.
Okay.
And engineers, they want to have an impact. That's kind of their most important motivation, is they want to feel like they are really making an impact with the work they're doing.
Yeah.
So most engineers are really happy with the fact that if they are in a project which does JavaScript full stack, they're really happy that they can work everywhere. In contrast with sometimes that you are at a company where you do the front end in JavaScript and then the back end is another language, and you are very dependent on other people who speak that language or write that language.
Yeah, indeed.
And that can be a bit frustrating sometimes, that you have to wait because maybe they don't have any time. So this is probably the biggest reason that I kind of just do JavaScript all over the place.
It's also pretty
It's just
easy.
very practical.
Yeah, practical. That's probably the main thing. So skydiving instructor, is there anything there you will tell people? Well, I'm a software engineer, but skydiving is for me, fill the blank.
So it's first of all, it's a very good way to kind of release the energy or the tension, because it's very relaxing, but also a lot of adrenaline. So it kind of...
We don't have the same definition of being relaxing right there.
It's, well, at the end of the
Okay.
days, if you had a few very nice jumps, and then if you have the one beer with the sunset,
Okay.
It's amazing.
Nice.
But it's a very good way to kind of relax, for me in this case. But it's also it's less of a daredevil sport than a lot of people think.
Okay. So if you want to see more about skydiving, we have a pretty nice small documentary. So watch it on Hackflix. So thanks, Jasper.
Thank
for
you.
allowing us to film at your place. It was amazing. Good morning, and maybe you have one last word. It's yours, all yours.
Well, thank you. Everybody should try at least one skydive. That's going to be very important.
Okay.
Just don't make the mistake I made, and that's not doing the tandem, but sign up for actually training to become a skydiver yourself. And then you are hooked, and you can say goodbye to all your money and time.
Because actually you were supposed to sign for a tandem, and then you end up signing up for like...
Yeah, I didn't really realize that, but I just signed up for 5 jumps for 300 euros instead of 1 jump for 200 euros. And at the end of the day, that was a training and not just a tandem. So after the 5 jumps, they said, now you can skydive by yourself.
And 900 jumps later, you're like, I'm going to do that again. Okay,
Yes.
Thanks again. And that's it for today.
Thank you.
And that was nice.
Cool.
Jasper?
Yes.
I think we have something else here.